Welcome back. This is part 7, the final part of needle felting the zebra Duiker. This is Natasha with Spirit Animals Art. And so what I'm doing is just getting everything into place, and I'm getting ready to really start sculpting and adding details to the face. I'm just building up the eyeballs here. You'll look at the pictures, the eyeballs stick out from the head a little bit. And in a minute I'm going to demonstrate what I do to bring out the sides of the face a little bit. But first I'm beginning to layer some of the darker color around the eye, giving the different shades of color. And one benefit of layering like this as well is if you do some reverse needling afterwards that blends the colors together, you'll be pulling some of these colors back through, and it just helps blend it even more. Started to put that on there and changed my mind, decided to make a nice little roll. Making him a nice little eyelid. And you'll see as you go along, you begin sculpting the face and you add bit by bit, checking your pictures, checking your proportions. It's really kind of a free-form way to do it because I know what I want in the end results, and there's many ways to get there. So I'm just intuitively just going for it. This is where you can't be afraid or intimidated by the project, and you just do it. You just keep stabbing, just keep stabbing. And a beautiful lady that I follow from Australia, Rena Lee, from Rena Lee Creations, she is always saying you just stab the ugly out. So it doesn't look the way you want, you just keep stabbing it. I just love that. I've adopted that as my mantra as well. You'll notice in the pictures that they have a strange little gland kind of between the nose and the eye that is a darker color. So I'm beginning to layer some color on to that area. Just putting everything into place little by little. Working on the line of his little mouth, and I find that I have a piece of plant material in my black, so I have to pull that out. So I just keep teasing it until it pulls out, stabbing it back into place. So you only need a tiny, tiny little strand of black to do the mouth line. You're just making that little line. Barely anything. And it's okay to cut off any excess that you have. Don't try to, if you have a long tail, don't try to poke that in because it'll end up being thick and it'll look funny. It's okay to go ahead and trim it. So that's the beginning of the mouth line, and as we go along, I keep messing with it and keep tweaking it to my liking. And as you stab the face and add pieces on, the face changes. be careful when you're poking on the face. It's so thin, you don't want to poke through to the other side because then you're going to contaminate the other side. So you're doing shallow pokes. You don't want, like if I let the needle go all the way to the other side, you would be bringing through fiber and making it look really funny. That just takes practice, knowing how far to go. And watch out for your fingers. Don't lay your hand or your finger on the other side while you're poking, because inevitably you will get yourself. And by the time you feel it, it's too late. So it's good to have a bunch of little pillows or little rice bags around that you can prop it on instead of your fingers. So I've decided that I do want to wrap these horns with a little bit of fiber. I'm going to show you guys how that's done. So I'll just take just the smallest, tiniest wisp and wrap that around the horns. We wrapped those in the tape so they're still a little bit sticky. So it sticks to it pretty good. Make sure that it's a little wider at the base and thinner at the top. And we're going to go ahead and glue those here in a moment. And when I'm gluing the fiber, remember when we did I wasn't satisfied with it, so you just take it off and do it again until you're happy with it. But remember when we did the hooves, it was just the tape, and so we had pretty thick glue. We only added a small amount of water just to thin it just a bit. When you're doing where you have wrapped the wool, it's better to thin it a bit more because you want to get that wool really soaked, but you don't want it so thin that it runs down into the other part of the sculpture, but you don't want it so thick that it just sets on top of the wool and doesn't penetrate, because you're going to want to do a couple, maybe 3 even coats. I can't remember how many coats I did. I did 2 or 3. Fiber on there, and you want your fiber on there really good before you begin with the glue, otherwise it's going to be a soggy mess. Just getting it tacked down in there. We're going to add more fiber to the head, so I'm not too concerned with how it looks at the base and the horns. There it is with just the fiber on. And I've decided to go ahead and use the glossy Mod Podge this time. When you use it on the wool, it's not super glossy, but it does give just a little bit of a sheen, and horns have kind of a little bit different texture. So that usually works out pretty good. So I have my water and my glossy Mod Podge, and you could use matte Mod Podge. You could use, could just use crafting glue or school glue. I'm not sure is the same. It may be a little bit different. Whatever they call PVA glue is what people generally use. I believe that's craft glue. Even wood glue would probably work as long as it's not yellowing. This dries clear. You want anything that dries clear. So I'm going to attempt here to get in the shot where you can see. So this is pretty much a 50-50 ratio of glue to water. I'm letting that soak in, and I'm keeping my ear away because I don't want my ear to be hardened. And there's also a fabric stiffener you could use called PowerTex, and I do have that as well, and I have used that. But I learned in another couple of tutorials that I watched, a lot of people like using just the PVA glue or Mod Podge, and I've gotten to where I really like that. If I need something to be super hard, like hard as a rock, then I'll use the PowerTex. But I kind of like the stickiness of the glue because, like, when I get this first coat onto these antlers, when it's about halfway dry, where the outside is dry but the inside is still a little thick, you can actually pinch it and form it and make sure it gets really smooth, and that glue kind of seeps out of the middle, and then you can rub it on the outside. It's kind of a satisfying squishiness. But you can do that when it's half dry, and that just kind of gives you a little bit more control on keeping those fibers from flying away. I find that the PowerTex, it has to be very well firmly felted. If there are any flyaways, there's really not a whole lot you can do with those because it doesn't seem to be as sticky. So we've got our first coat on. Going in for the second coat. Just being very careful not to get it on the ears. And if this is your first time doing it, I would probably get a tissue or a paper towel or something and put between those horns and ears to protect them if you're really nervous about it. And it goes on white, but it dries clear. Here he is with his horns not quite all the way dry. I'm testing them. They're almost completely. Just a tiny bit malleable, mostly dry. Make sure you wash your brush out so you don't have glue stuck in your brush. Okay, and taking a look at our reference picture, I see the way the horns, the angle of the horns, and so I'm just going to position those how I want those to be before I put the rest of the fiber on the head. So I've decided I'm going to make him some dark brown eyes. I'm not going to leave just that black socket there. So I took some of the darker color, the seal brown, and I'm mixing it with black, about half and half. So I'm just making me a little round eyeball, and I'm going to stick that in there. So what I'm doing here is I've decided the back of the head needs to be wider. The eyes need to stick out more. And I need to get those lined up right because they're just not making me happy here. So I get a strong sewing needle, not your felting needles. You probably could use a thicker broken end of a felting needle, but don't use your felting part of your felting needle. So you can just pull, stick it through and pull any parts that you need to come out more. So here I'm pulling it, putting it through. I'm just stretching it out, just teasing that out. I need it to stick out. I'm just pulling it. And felting it into place, taking a look. It really is just a whole lot of fussing and tweaking and fussing and tweaking, and eventually you'll get it how you like it. If at any point you get frustrated with it and you just can't figure out something you're trying to do, take a breath, take a break, come back later, look at it with fresh eyes. This is the most stress-relieving, relaxing hobby I believe that there is, so let's not make it stressful. Adding some more details to the face. So I'm bringing out the secret weapon now. This is the reverse felting needle. There are a few different gauges. It doesn't really matter which one. What the reverse needle does is the barbs are on the other direction. So when you push into the wool and you pull out, the wool comes out. So it's great for fuzzing projects if you need it to be like a fuzzy bear or something. But it's also good for blending colors. And so the white needle that I had was the reverse needle. This purple one that I'm using, after I fuzz those fibers out, see, I'm going to fuzz the fibers out with the reverse needle. That's the white one I'm holding. And then I take my other needle and I poke them back in. And that just blends. You can do that as many times as you need to on as many areas. Okay, so I spent another couple of hours outside of filming just working on the feet, putting more fiber on, making the legs look nice. I've added a little bit more meat to his rump so that it's not quite a big V there. I added more color gradations throughout. His ears looked a little bit small to me after adding more fiber. Instead of making new ears, they were only a tad bit small. I just stretched them out with my fingers. I just pulled and tugged on them and then reformed them back. And then I used a little white and put the sparkles in his eyes. And you actually could put some of the Mod Podge on the nose and make a leather looking nose. I decided to leave him like he is. And there he is, all finished. And so in a minute here at the end, I'm going to show how I pack up the spirit animals. And he actually ended up being 6 inches tall and about 6.5 inches long. So that is perfect size to be put in my little box. And when I pack the boxes, I put some lavender and rose petals. I put them in a nice bag. This is actually a bread bag. I have a whole box of these because they're just perfect size and they're nice and flexible, and they keep them safe in case your box were to get wet in shipping. So I tied that up, put a little sparkly paper in there, tuck him in there nicely, and I put a little thank you card. I'll put care instructions. If this is a spirit animal personalized, I will put the channeled message in there. And then I tie it up, and I have different yarns. This is the yarn that I was using for orders around Christmas, and I just love the sparkle, so I've been using it still. Everybody needs a little sparkle in their life. So I just tie that up, and it's easy to just pull the bow. You don't have to cut anything. So if you were giving it as a gift, you could take it out and look at it and then box it right back up. Thank you guys so much. This was so much fun. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thanks.